Greetings everyone, I'm Dave Matuzik and welcome to Shop Class with Dave. Today we will be building this simple hanging birdhouse. I'll have a link in the description where you can download a PDF of these plans. And this is a great, fun, simple project for the whole family. All the parts are made with standard dimensional lumber, in this case 1x6s and 1x8 pine. You can build it using simple hand tools or power tools if you wish. If you have children, you don't feel comfortable using tools, try cutting the pieces for them and letting them nail it together. If you have very young children, like I do, have them paint the birdhouse. At the end, I'll show you the paint job my 2.5-year-old did for me. Let's talk about the tools we'll need. A hammer and a nail set. A square, I'm using a combination square. A tape measure, a ruler, and a pencil. A block plane. A drill. I have a cordless power drill here. An optional tool here is an awl. A small handsaw. And another optional tool here is a miter box. There are pieces of 1x6 pine that need to be cut 5.5 inches long. These are the only pieces that need to be somewhat square, so I'm cutting them in my rather large miter box. If you don't have a miter box, don't worry. With some care you can do this with freehand with a saw. Moving on, I want to show you a simple homemade device I use when doing all sorts of things on my bench. It's called a bench hook, and is simply a few pieces of wood screwed together. Mine is made from some scrap 2-inch thick oak and some mystery wood. You can easily make this from a piece of plywood or scraps lying around. If it's your first project, hit up the call and scrap molding pile at your local lumber yard or home center. A common problem when using a handsaw is the saw skating around as you start the cut. A few tips here. One is start the saw where it has the most support, or what I did here, we use the corner of the stop on my bench hook. Or what I like to do, and you'll see me do in a second, is make a little notch with a chisel. That's where I like to start the cut. Here I am cutting one of the 1x8s, which are really 7.5 inches wide. I marked it with my square, and then I'm going to go get my little chisel and just make a little notch there for my saw to start in so it doesn't skate all around my workpiece here. And next I got the saw started on my bench. I got the cut started there, following the line, trying not to hit the bench with my saw. I failed in that, as you'll hear in the background there. And get the saw started slowly, get moving along, and just get the saw started and make sure you're following, tracking along that cut line there. And then I put the piece on the edge of the bench there, got a good grip, and sawed it the rest of the way. And you'll notice here when I get towards the end of the cut, I'll start to slow down, and I'll change my grip in order to support it through the very end of the cut. That way the piece doesn't come flying off and break off, leaving a big splinter. Two pieces need to be ripped, and the easiest way to do that with a handsaw is draw a line and saw down, just leaving the line there. And then what we'll do is we'll take our block plane and we'll plane down to that line. You'll see me do that here in a second. Alright, and on the block plane side here, taking some passes, and you know what, I'll take some extra passes where I have some extra high spots. Like you see right there. I really didn't track my saw very good along that line. And then it's just a matter of planing that line away. So I just keep planing until that line just disappears. Now laying out the front of the birdhouse, I used a straight edge to mark corner to corner to find the center. And then I measured down to find the center of the opening for the bird there. So measure down that amount. And then I took my awl and made a little mark there for the drill to start. If you don't have an awl, you can just use a nail, or if you want, just be very careful and start the hole by hand. I used a drill press and a Forstner bit to make the 1 1/4 inch hole for the birds. But if you don't have a drill press, I'd recommend using a hole saw for this step because they're easy to use in a hand drill. Here's a little power tool action for everybody. First I drilled the opening for the bird here with a 1 1/4 inch Forstner bit. And then I ended up switching bits and drilling a 1/4 inch hole to put the perch into. And I'll let you watch that there and just see what I did. A quick note on assembly, I like to pre-drill for my nails so I don't split the wood. I didn't have a drill bit of the right size for the nails, so I simply cut the head off a nail with some diagonal cutters, and there you go, I have a perfectly sized drill bit for my nail holes. Here is a quick view of how the bottom goes together. I'll start by drilling and nailing through the front here. I like to get everything aligned, and then I'm going to drill one hole and nail one hole, as you'll see in a second here. You see that nail works just fine as a drill bit. Pop that nail in there. Just leaving it just proud of the surface a little bit. And I'm going to make sure everything's aligned again. Sometimes it moves a little bit. And I'm going to drill and nail another hole on the other side. And about 3 holes per side here ought to do it. And I'm going to repeat the process on the other bottom side there. So I'm just going to get everything aligned the best I can. Some of this wood's a little warped and what have you. It's mainly scrap wood from my shop. So we'll get that together there. And I'm going to drill the next hole. And I'm going to put a nail in it. And again, 3 holes per side. Check your alignment, put your second hole in. And I'm also going to do the same thing between 3 nails between the 2 bottom boards there. So we'll get some nails after, but I'll do that after I put the back on. And you put the back on the exact same way you put the front on. Make sure everything's aligned, drill a hole, nail it, and repeat the process. And one more hole here on the front. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is take this tool called a nail set, and I'm just going to use that to drive that head of the nail just below the surface of the wood. And that way they're not sticking out. I didn't put any wood filler or anything on them. You could if you wanted to, but I didn't really think it was necessary. It's something I'm just going to paint. Okay, so I spared you from having to watch me nail the other side on because it's the exact same process. And now I'm going to put one of the top pieces on for the roof. And again, the same process. You're going to see me align it, but this time I got to do a little bit of measuring because I'm nailing through the roof here. And I want to make sure the overhang's correct. So I measured it, and I'll go through the same process again of nailing it on. A little trick here is measure where you're going to put your nails in, mark it with a pencil, and nail in that spot there. So that way you're not nailing right through the space, right through the part into space, I should say. So again, I'm going to get that aligned. Drill a hole. Check my alignment, drill another one, put another nail in, and then I'll put the rest of the nails in. So 3 on the sides and 3 along on the bottom there. And that should hold that on pretty well. And the next step will be to put the other half of the top on with some screws. So here we go, nail that in. Leave it just proud again. And again, I'll set that with a nail set. Drill the other side, and using that nail with the cutoff edge working great as a drill bit. A little trick for you guys there. Don't be afraid to do that. Alright, now we're putting the other side of the top on. So I'm actually measuring where I'm going to put my screws. Again, for that very reason that I don't want to accidentally drill a hole and put a screw into space where it's not going to do anything. So just some quick marks with a pencil and a ruler. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I just kind of want to know where they need to be. And I'm going to pre-drill using a appropriate size drill bit. I'm using number 8 screws, and I'm just good at guessing which drill bit to use, but you could look that up if you needed to. So in other words, I don't remember what drill bit I used. But I'm drilling. And a little trick here, I'm going to put the screws in when I get there by hand. And the reason for that is, pine is very soft. I don't want to sink the screw head too far down into the pine. And also, I've had bad luck with cheap screws you get at the home center with the heads breaking off here, so you can see me just putting one in. And I'll give you guys another little trick here. Screws go in a lot easier if they have something to kind of lubricate them. And I have a piece of beeswax I leave around the shop for doing that. If you don't have beeswax, by all means use the end of an old candle. Or, another tip for you guys here, if you get a 99-cent wax toilet ring, there's my piece of wax right there. That works perfectly for doing this. So you can stick all your screws in that, and they'll be waxed up and ready to go when you need them. So I'm getting that aligned again, putting the screw in. And I'll do 2 more screws there to hold the top on. Now the perch is just a 1/4-inch piece of dowel I cut to about 1 3/4 of an inch long. I'm just going to drive it into that hole, and I'm not using any glue. I put my finger behind there to make sure I don't drive it in too far, but I'm not using any glue because if that breaks off, it's just a lot easier to pull it right out, and it's a tight fit. Now I'm measuring where I'm going to put an eye hook for the top. So I'm just going to measure to the very center of my part, and I'm going to drill a pilot hole for a screw-in eye hook. And now I get a little problem here, you're going to see in a second. It's very hard to start a drill bit at that very sharp edge there at the top. And you can see me struggle there for a second there just to kind of show you how hard that is to do. Here's a little tip for you guys here. I'm just going to end up taking a block plane. And I'm just going to plane a very, very small flat right along the top. Just about the width of the drill bit. And a couple passes ought to do it. And I'm just going to drill a hole in straight from the top. Start it easily, gently, drill that hole in, and I'm going to take that eye hook and thread it right into the top there. Now, quick note about finishing. You're going to want to put some sort of finish on this birdhouse before you put it outside. Any waterproof finish will work. And again, here's a picture of my daughter painting a birdhouse for me and the results of another birdhouse she painted. Keep in mind, she's 2.5 years old, so she did a very good job. She's actually using a non-toxic washable paint. So what I'm actually going to do is put a coat of marine varnish over the top of that to kind of protect it in the environment. But other great finishes include latex house paint, a oil finish like linseed oil or boiled linseed oil, any finish that is safe for being outdoors. A couple tips here. Number one, the birds probably will not want to be in that birdhouse until the finish cures, meaning all the smell goes away to a level they can't detect it. Another thing to keep in mind here is enjoy yourself. Get the whole family involved in decorating these things. Paint them. If you use a water-based non-toxic paint, let it dry and cure for a few days. Put a coat of some sort of clear finish over the top of it. It'll last outside there probably for a couple of years. So I just want to let you guys know about those tips there. And I'd like to thank you all for watching. Hope you had a good time doing this, and I hope you all tackle this project soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.